Now, last night was also the end of an era for Ring of Honor. Their Final Battle pay-per-view in Baltimore, the final Ring of Honor show of the current era as we know it. Even if they return as planned in April, they are going to be a very different promotion going forward. Bandido, who is was the Ring of Honor World Champion, tested positive for COVID, which canceled their planned main event. I know that feeling. With Bandido against Jonathan Gresham. And this is the second time that Bandido has tested positive for COVID. Tony Khan on Busted Open Radio the other day said that he would be sending some, quote, support to Ring of Honor, and he did so in more ways than one, but he did so in the form of sending former Ring of Honor World Champion Jay Lethal, who just left the company and said in the Scrum, the last pay-per-view that AEW did when Lethal showed up as a surprise, he made the comment that he would not be at Final Battle. But he was. He was at Final Battle, and not only was he at Final Battle, he was in the main event, challenging Jonathan Gresham for the Ring of Honor World Championship. They had alumni videos airing throughout the night. Again, I got in late last night after the Hog show, so I have not seen the entire Ring of Honor pay-per-view. Part of the reason the show went up a little late today is because I wanted to at least go back and see the main event, but just see certain parts of the show before I talked about it. But they had alumni videos that aired throughout the show with various faces that were instrumental in the history of Ring of Honor. So there were videos with CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, the Young Bucks, Hangman Adam Page, among others, Eddie Edwards, Jimmy Jacobs. A lot of these men were part of the heart and soul of Ring of Honor over the years. CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, Homicide. Those are the names that a lot of people think of. Former Ring of Honor World Champions, people who helped carry that company on their back in those formative years, in the mid-2000s, and the late 2000s. And there's a bunch of other names, too. I mean, Nigel McGuinness and Colt Cabana, and the list goes on. But it was very cool to be able to see these guys talk about what Ring of Honor meant to them and how instrumental Ring of Honor was in their career. The Summer of Punk. Before there was a Summer of Punk in WWE in 2011, there was a Summer of Punk in 2005 in Ring of Honor. Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, made a name for himself in Ring of Honor. Samoa Joe, that historic championship run that he had, the match with Kobashi. I mean, Joe had so many moments in his prime Ring of Honor years. We didn't hear from him, but it was cool to be able to hear from some of these other people. There were multiple surprises up and down the show. One of them was a surprise appearance by Deonna Purrazzo, the reigning AAA Reina de Reinas champion, who confronted Roxy after she retained her Ring of Honor Women's Championship against Willow Nightingale. Purrazzo came out as a surprise, and she said that she wants the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. And she said that when I beat Mickie James for the Knockouts Championship at Impact's Hard to Kill pay-per-view, which is coming up next month, she's challenging Roxy to face her in a winner-take-all championship match. And the implication here is that the match would take place in Impact, which I guess it would have to, since Ring of Honor, the earliest Ring of Honor would even be running another show, wouldn't be until April. So if that match happens, and I assume this angle would not have been done if it was not happening, then it's going to take place at some point in the next couple of months, probably, in Impact Wrestling. Roxy accepted her challenge and shook her hand. There was a big angle on this show. Brody King, Homicide, Tony Deppen, and Rocky Romero beat EC3, Tracy Williams, Taylor Rust, and Eli Isom. After the match was over, EC3 took the microphone, and he cut a promo, and he told Eli to stand up and helped him to his feet. He said, we stand in a Ring of Honor. And he talked about how there's no honor in what they do, and he talked about this being a corporate wrestling brands, and he talked about all the sacrifices that the wrestlers made. And Dak Draper and Brian Johnson, who wrestled elsewhere on the card, they came to the ring. They got up in EC3's face. And EC3 told Johnson that, he's lost everything. He said it's a call to arms for them and anybody else who wants to take back the wrestling industry. He said he was offering them a choice. You can control your narrative. He's been doing this control your narrative thing on his own now for several months. And all of a sudden, two guys come out. One of them was Wesley Blake. I don't know who the other guy was. We'll call him Mystery Man number 2. But the first man was Wesley Blake. They walk out onto the stage. And EC3 says that he could give the wrestlers their freedom, whoever chose to stand with him. To control your narrative, you have to fight. And then he looked into the camera and he said, "Free the Titan." And that brought out the former Braun Strowman, who looks great. I saw the video of him from the Blizzard Brawl show that Dave Hero promoted a few weeks ago, independent show, and I think they had over 2,000 people at that show. He slimmed down a bit. He still looks gigantic, but he's in the best shape physically that I've ever seen him in. Braun and EC3 have become very good friends, at least since Braun left WWE. I don't know if they had a friendship that predates that. They might have. In fact, I think they do. But I know they're very good friends. He led Blake and this other dude down to the ring, and Braun took out Johnson. He took out Draper. And so it looks like we have a new faction. And the only thing is we don't know exactly where they're going to be popping up. My first thought was maybe on Impact. I'm sure Braun Strowman does not come cheap. So perhaps they won't be showing up on any mainstream shows anytime soon. I don't know. They're not going to WWE. And I don't know that they would be going to AEW. That leaves Impact. There's always MLW. I don't know where their final destination is going to be. But we do have ourselves a new group. Jay and Mark Briscoe got a win over Matt Taven and Mike Bennett to win the Ring of Honor tag team titles. This was an excellent match. When I mentioned all those names before, Danielson, Joe, Punk, Homicide, all these different people who have held the Ring of Honor World title going back all those many years ago. And those 2006 and 2007 Ring of Honor shows that I first started attending live. In addition to all those guys, you think of the Briscoes. Because if anybody has been a longtime staple of this promotion and has stayed loyal to the Ring of Honor brand, even more than those people I mentioned. All those people I mentioned moved on with their lives and their careers, and they went to go work for Impact, and they went to go work for WWE, and now many of them are working in AEW, where they were in NXT. The Briscoes had a chance at one point to go to WWE, and it fell apart, but they have stuck with Ring of Honor through and through for all these years, and still, to this day, are one of the greatest tag teams in the business. So it was appropriate here on what may end up being the final real Ring of Honor show that you have the Briscoes go over and win the tag team championships. And when the match was over, they got on the mic, Jay Briscoe did, and he challenged any team to step up to the plate. And the lights went out. When they came back on, we heard the music. It was Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler of FTR. They came to the ring. They went face-to-face with the Briscoes. A brawl broke out between the two teams. They had to be split up. So that was a big surprise people weren't expecting on this show. The reigning AAA Tag Team Champions, FTR, showing up on this Ring of Honor show. Ring of Honor, or rather FTR and the Briscoes, they've been going back and forth on social media. They've wanted to work with each other for quite some time. And now they're going to have that chance. When the news came out about Ring of Honor folding, at least for a few months, and that everybody who was under contract was going to effectively be released from their contract either at the end of this year, or if they had a longer-term deal signed, they would be signed through March or April of next year. But everybody is basically going to become a free agent. And even if Ring of Honor returns, they're not going to have contracts. There's not going to be long-term contracts the way they were before. That's what I mean when I say the Ring of Honor will never look the same again, even if it does come back. The Briscoes belong in that tag team division in AEW, because we already know they're not going to WWE, right? There was a chance years ago, and things fell apart. WWE doesn't seem to have interest in them. But the tag team division in AEW is far more robust than it is in WWE, and the Briscoes would be a much better fit there anyway. So they were one of the talents, or one of the teams that I said will likely end up in AEW. And this only, cements that opinion and my belief in that even more. The Briscoes wrestling FTR, I think, is way more likely to happen in an AEW ring than it is a Ring of Honor ring. And even if Ring of Honor returns and the Briscoes, they have the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships, they could still defend them. They could still work for Ring of Honor. They could freelance for Ring of Honor and defend their titles and then drop them to somebody else at some point. But we're going to be getting the Briscoes in FTR. It's just a matter of when and where. And I would assume it would have to be the AEW ring. So then we had the main event, which was Jonathan Gresham and Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor World Championship. And this was also a very good match. Jonathan Gresham is, we know Jay Lethal is very talented, but Jonathan Gresham is great. And I love the finish of this match because these guys are going at it tooth and nail. And they're having a very competitive match and the people are into it. But then all of a sudden you see people emptying out. The entire Ring of Honor locker room begins to empty out down to the ring, and they all surround the ring like lumberjacks, and they're banging on the mat, and some of the women at ringside they have their phones out and they're filming the finish of the match, and Gresham and Lethal are going back and forth with strikes, and Gresham, he has that move, the bayonet, and he hit about 3 or 4 bayonets, and he could not put away Jay Lethal no matter what he tried to do. He went for a 4th one, and he got cut off. And Gresham countered the Lethal injection attempt into a backslide for a near fall. I figured we weren't gonna have a new Ring of Honor World Champion crowned in what may be their final match on a fucking backslide. But they got a near fall out of it. And finally, he locked on the octopus on Jay Lethal, and he took him down, and Jay Lethal had no choice but to tap out. And Jonathan Gresham gets his crowning moment, bittersweet as it may have been, as the new Ring of Honor World Champion. His wife, Jordan Grace, was there at ringside. She came in to celebrate with her husband. But I thought that the added touch of having the locker room empty out and surround the ring and cheer these two guys on in what may well be the final Ring of Honor match, and certainly of the current era, was a special moment. And watching Todd Sinclair in the ring officiating that main event and hearing Bobby Cruz announce Gresham as the new champion, and Carrie Silkin comes into the ring to present the old Ring of Honor World Championship belt, the original Ring of Honor World title, to Jonathan Gresham. To watch all of that brought back so many wonderful memories for me. Because as I've said before, I had nothing but fond memories of being at those live Ring of Honor shows at the Manhattan Center, at the New Yorker Hotel Ballroom, in the Hammerstein Ballroom. There was a stretch of about 3 or 4 years there where I rarely missed a Ring of Honor show when they came to New York. And you always had a great time. It was, it was the spiritual successor in many ways to ECW, right? It made sense because Gabe Sapolsky, who had as much to do with those early Ring of Honor years as anybody, was a protege under Paul Heyman in ECW. And from the ashes of ECW rose Ring of Honor in 2002. The same year that TNA debuted, so did Ring of Honor. Actually, Ring of Honor debuted even before TNA did, a few months before. And so you would go to these shows and the fans. I was never at the ECW arena in Philadelphia, so I can't sit here and tell you what it would have been like to attend one of those old ECW shows in that building. I'm sure it was like a fucking spiritual experience for a lot of people. But I can tell you that being at those Ring of Honor shows, I had never been to a WWE show that would get the kind of audience interaction and the kind of reactions that you saw in Ring of Honor. And I was at a lot of those Attitude Era Raws and stuff, and it was great. And it was like a party every week. It was a lot of fun, very loud, obviously a lot more people than you would find at the Manhattan Center. But it was just a different vibe, and it was a different product. It was more athletically focused and athletically inclined to the action in the ring. There were angles and there were swerves and there were turns and there were storylines, but it was more focused on the action in the ring. And, Ring of Honor the legacy that it leaves behind is still felt when you watch a WWE show today. Look at all of the Ring of Honor talents, the talents that passed through ROH, who are now working for WWE, who have headlined WrestleMania, and who are still in WWE right now, in main events, in top positions in this company. Look at the product we have in AEW. Look at the product we have almost anywhere in wrestling. Whether you like it or not, and there are a lot of people who don't like what wrestling has become. They don't like the style they see, the indie style they see on WWE television or AEW television, and they blame that for why wrestling is not as popular as it used to be. I know there are a lot of people who are not fans of that, but there are a lot of people who are. And the one thing you can't deny is that the influence of Ring of Honor is still felt to this day in every single one of these promotions. Ring of Honor was WWE developmental at one point. It was basically an unofficial feeder system to WWE. Not that they wanted to be, because it only hurt Ring of Honor, but that's what they were. Until Triple H decided one day, you know what, I'm just going to create my own Ring of Honor, and we'll call it NXT. And I'll raid all of these talents, and we'll make it attractive for them to come here instead of going there. Or when they're done there, they'll come to us, as many of them ended up doing. But you cannot watch any of these wrestling shows on television today and not see and feel the influence of Ring of Honor. Tony Khan lent a helping hand to Ring of Honor when he did not have to do that. There was there was no upside for AEW in him doing so, outside of building goodwill with the fans. But he really bailed them out of a jam in that main event. So kudos to him, the video messages from all the former talent that now work for AEW that they sent in, the FTR surprise, Lethal subbing for Bandido. We had some of those same problems on our show last night at House of Glory, so trust me when I tell you, it is not a great situation to be in. But you pivot and try to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, because that's all you can do. And hats off not only to Tony Khan. I'm not trying to just blow smoke at Tony Khan. Tony Khan stepped in, Impact, the NWA, they all had a hand in kind of stepping up to the plate. So kudos to all of them.